granting the understanding, patience, commitment, and support you have shown throughout the implementation of this government's policies and programs aimed at positively transforming our great nation. Your contributions and support have played a significant role in our efforts to rescue the economy since we came on board. Our allegiance and patriotism are the bedrock upon which our beloved country thrives. The success of our government's policies and programs hinges on the willingness of workers as the backbone of our workforce to embrace them wholeheartedly. I appeal to you to continue using the power of the labor movement for the greater good of our nation, fostering harmony and cooperation.
All right, so Lala Akande is here with us, the host of Inside Sources. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
When government make this kind of statements, you know, even though, for instance, the president, when he says, hey, don't worry, doses of concerns are over. But we're looking to our present scenario and say, where, from where, how? So it leaves us asking. So, I mean, while you were there, they also had this challenge about minimum wage. They went back and forth with Labour in terms of what they were to agree on, how it was supposed to be. So perhaps give us the benefit of hindsight. When this kind of comments through, from what kind of background or setting, are they realistic when they say these things? Because Labour, definitely, they don't agree with the numbers. Right.
Yeah, what normally happens is that, and this is the kind of thing that, you see in the engagement, the people that represent the Labour movement, they tend to take an attitude that suggests that they are not willing to take the bad end of the stick. They see a lot of the excesses. They see a lot of the misappropriation, even though some workers too are involved in the benefit. But the way, the attitude that they bring in is that, look, if you are asking us, not to ask for this much, how come is it that we have this level of extravagance, these excesses, and in some instances, the profligacy that we all see? So when the Labour people come into the room to negotiate, this is the attitude they are coming in with. And to a very reasonable extent, it makes sense. Because you cannot say on the one hand that, oh, we can't pay you that sum of money. And, the whole world can also see some of the things that you can cut off in your own estimate. So what has happened is that the people who are, negotiating, they are also Nigerians. And they see what everybody sees. So it's one of the strengths that they bring to the table. It's a moral imperative. So,
but does government think, or are they, when that negotiation goes on, perhaps you shed a little more light to, is it from a politician's mindset, they're thinking, okay, how does this benefit me politically? Or do they just realistically say, look, the people are actually suffering, we need to do something? How do they balance all that?
Well, I think in the instance of this government, and, again, we have to give the credit where it is due. I think this president wants to give a living wage. As a matter of fact, he has been the one that has spoken a lot about a living wage, a wage that can sustain people. So what we are waiting for is how he will match, those words with action. So in terms of...
Labour thinks living wage is about 613,000 naira?
Yeah, well,
615,000.
615.
Yeah. So
minimum.
Exactly. Well, that's their view. But I think, of course, they also know, and I think they've also said that, of course, that's not their rock bottom. So the point is that I think we are likely going to have a descent. If we base it on what the president has been saying, and I say we have to give him credit for that, we are likely going to have a decent outcome. I am hopeful that we will have a decent outcome. Where I have a worry is whether this can be truly national. What is going to happen to compel the states or to encourage the states or to carry along the states to honor whatever it is, the national minimum wage that we arrive at? I think that is a more important concern.
Well, Labour leaders did say yesterday that there's a bit of confusion because the federal government did come out to say that they had increased minimum wage by 25 to 35%, depending on where you are on the rung of the ladder. I think we also had the Minister of State for Labour, confirm that the new minimum wage was taking effect from May the 1st. And labor leaders are like, okay, that's a bit confusing because we know that minimum wage discussions are still ongoing. So what exactly is this about?
Okay, I think there might have been some confusion in the communication, and I tried to check, and I see that what has happened is that there has been an announcement of, I think, 25 to 30% of the increase for federal government workers. Now, generally, so that means the federal government has said that, look, we are giving those who work for federal government, we are giving them between 25 and 30% more in their salary. Now, that is different from the conversation on the minimum wage. The minimum wage is the lowest, that anybody will be paid, and it has to take an act of parliament for that to take effect. And so you have this tripartite committee that has the government, the labor, and I think the state government, trying to figure out what is acceptable to everybody, because then they have to take it to parliament, it has to become a law. And that would be the minimum. But the 25 to 30% that was announced is for federal government workers across board, not just the minimum, if you get what I mean.
So what strategy is that? I mean, is this something to preempt what the new minimum wage will be, or to give an idea of where the federal government is thinking the new minimum wage would lie?
Exactly. That's a very important question, because if you have said that, okay, I'm going to increase the salary of my workers by this percent, that might mean that you have an idea of how much you want the minimum wage to be, which is reasonable. Government will come to the table. Labor says 600. Government can also come to the table that this is how much we're going to push. So, but it doesn't mean that that decision is already ossified or already taken in a way that cannot be withdrawn, because, it's the percentage that is important. So if they even arrive at a minimum wage that is higher than what they had intended, it just means that that percentage, we can keep the number, but the sum we go up. So I think it is still something that it's not necessarily contradictory, but I agree with you that they've not communicated it properly.
Speaking about communication, could you tell us what your impression is as to how government communicated their, perhaps, I don't know if it's called it wins, gains, or the outcome of that meeting in Netherlands, for instance, concerning this shipping company that's been in this country for over about 35 years, Maersk, for instance?
Right.
How do you think it was handled?
Yeah, well, so I think, again, the president is showing a bit of determination in trying to be the chief marketing officer of Nigeria. And again, it's a good thing. Now, but determination is strength. Desperation is weakness. So when you have government spokespeople, being desperate, going ahead of the Maersk in this instance to announce, what the Maersk wants to do, it shows a bit of desperation. That's weakness, and it doesn't reflect very well on the president. What they ought to do is to allow Maersk itself to announce. As a matter of fact, what they should be doing behind the scene is talking to the Maersk people that, when are you going to put this out? We need you to put this out. And when it is now out, then we throw their presidential, weight behind it so that the thing really goes out. For them to be the one to announce what Maersk is going to do after a closed-door meeting is simply, and I'm sorry to say it, incompetent. It's just incompetent.
So speaking about this, you know how this works, because you've been there. You know that you cannot unilaterally, on your own, go out and issue a statement. They have to tell you, okay, I've just finished this, so could you do this and do that? Well, so in that context, right? How do you handle it?
In most cases, you have the head of the media or communication sitting in the room, So I mean, and I imagine that
But you can also act unilaterally.
Well, but it's essentially your call. That's your job. Now you can't go.
If maybe president, VP, anybody say issue this, you say what? No.
No. I don't mean that. Of course, you work for the president or you work for the vice president, whoever it is that is your immediate principal. That's the person you work for. Okay, but it is your job to advise the principal on how to communicate. And I must say that both of the special advisors, they are hardworking. There's no doubt about that. They are hardworking, and their team, no doubt about that. But there is no synergy, there is no coordination, and there's no oversight. I'll give you an example. When I was in in the villa spokesperson to the vice president, it's my call to make statement, but oftentimes, in fact, every time, I always ensure that even my own draft statement is read by somebody else. At times, people who I know have a little bit more about how government operates to look at it. Because if that is taking place, you won't have all these gaps over gaps that the media team has been committing. They need to have more
this Maersk,
yeah.
What exactly the gap exactly? Because I mean, you also saw that in February, Maersk did pay a visit to the Minister of Trade,
right? And
then they made that commitment. He was heard saying they were going to increase, I think, investment of facility, improve facilities to about $500 million.
I think so, $100 million. $100 million.
Was it thereabout?
Yeah.
So could that have been what they leveraged on?
Well, so when you meet the minister, it's different from when you meet the president. When you meet the president, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Everybody is expecting.
So they cannot say both contexts converge.
So yeah. So whatever comes out of a meeting of the president is going to travel farther. People are going to be aware more than the minister. Oftentimes, people don't even know what is going on with the ministries. A lot of the ministers don't even care for public communication. But in the presidency, it's a different ball game. You have people whose job is to, and then you have the media sitting down there, a lot of them. So we can't compare what happens at the presidency with what happens at the ministerial level, just because there's a greater focus on what happens in the presidency.
But given the denial now, I mean, I don't know, is it trying to save face? Some people have said as a result of, regulatory sanctions that could come to Maersk, given the fact that they're just about to release their own statements in the market. I'm just a little curious as to how, do you think that it has potential now for the relationship that they're trying to build with Nigeria? I mean, this investment they're talking about, what future does it portend, given just how, the situation now is with this particular communication?
Well, so Maersk is a business, so, they're not doing Nigeria a favor, if you look at it that way. When they invest, they will get returns. So I imagine that what has happened is that they are just a little bit embarrassed because they haven't completed their own internal due diligence. They've made an offer to the president that we're going to do this much, but they still have a few things, a few to cross the T's and dot the I's and then go to the public. I think that is what has happened. They are just a bit embarrassed that, no, we are not there yet. We have made the offer. We had a closed-door meeting with the president. We need some time to now come out. So I imagine that they will go forward. They want to make money. They've been here for quite a while. So I don't think it will really affect the outcome. I think what this really affects is the image of the administration, suggesting some desperation, which is weak. What we need is determination, which is strength.
Well, what we need determination. At the end of the day, if a communication makes an administration look desperate, they certainly will not be happy that they're looking that way, and that certainly would perhaps affect how they would want to do business with that particular organization going forward. You don't think so?
That's true, yeah. And that's why we're making these matters public, that look, don't behave this way. Don't suggest that Nigeria is begging, we are a beggar nation, and we just take whatever it is and then run with it, without following the due process. The due process here is let the Maersk announce that this is what we're going to do. And then when they announce, you put your weight behind it. It enhances your credibility, and it also, safeguards the Maersk's internal processes. It's just a simple thing. Look, people have done this forever. They just need to pay attention, and I think the president needs to pay attention to ensure that there is more coordination. Like I said, those guys are hardworking. Nobody can deny that. But there's there's no cohesion. If you have somebody like Mr. Bayo Ononuga there, it's an experienced journalist. He was my boss at the news. Somebody like him ought to be playing a greater role of oversight on what is going on. I don't think that has happened.
It depends on what the presidency wants, actually.
That's true.
All right. We do thank you for coming on. Akande, former presidential aide.